me. Do you mind if I join you? Are you sure you don't mind? You're absolutely sure I won't be disturbing you?
Prime! One shall stand. One shall fall.
Why do you throw away your life so recklessly?
That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron.
No! I'll crush you with my bare hands!
Hello and welcome to the Mental Suppository. I'm Brett Herholtz.
I'm Andrew Shanley.
And I'm Jamie Billings.
Before we get into anything, I have a bit of a correction from last week's program. The script Kevin and I did, the Flintstones, wasn't actually from an unproduced television pilot. It was actually for the first draft of the Flintstones movie that came out in '94. And I because of the date and because the draft was from '87, I thought it was from there was a lot of Hanna-Barbera stuff that was coming out around that time, like the Jetsons and Yogi Bear. So I thought it was like a possible pilot for a Return of the Flintstones. But it ends up that I'd forgotten a lot of these scripts end up sort of in production hell. And given the '94 Flintstones movie, it probably should have stayed in production hell.
And we received lots of listener complaints about that. So we just needed to make sure that we addressed it.
Yeah. Oh, you guys really need to know what you're talking about. That was from the Flintstone movie, you jerks.
You guys got to turn in your geek card.
Yeah.
Man.
So I just wanted to clear it up. Thank you, people. We're sorry.
Thank you, everybody. Yep.
We're sorry. All right.
We're only human.
Yeah. No fooling.
Yep.
But before we begin the discussion, I think I should mention we have another new sponsor everybody should know about.
New sponsor. This episode of the Mental Suppository is brought to you by Escape from Kelly Square for the Sully Wool Station 5. More danger, more carnage, more busted rearview mirrors than you can shake a stick at. Bring the excitement of Kelly Square home.
Is it safe to cut into traffic?
We have a break! Do it now, man! Do it!
Look! The Hotel Vernon!
That's where I'm trying to get to!
No, you're gonna hit it! Ah!
Use panic, poor decisions, and questionable driving skills to try to get out of Kelly Square alive!
I don't see a stop sign! I think we can go through!
State trooper! It was an applied stop!
It all? How do you win this game?
You don't! Pick up Escape from Kelly Square today. Coming soon, Escape from Kelly Square, Peanut Rotary Edition, Escape from Kelly Square, 530 Traffic Edition, and Polar Park Construction Road Warrior Edition!
Ow!
EH Sports. Yeah.
Starting the game.
Oh, I'll be certain to pick up my copy of that game. I'm for sure.
So what expert topic are we talking about today, gentlemen?
Well, I thought we'd talk about something we all kind of grew up with, and I know we all probably saw at one point or another. The 1986 Transformers the movie, which for some fans is the only Transformers movie.
Oh God, yes.
But I don't know about you guys. For me, I actually didn't see Transformers the movie in the theaters because my parents we didn't go out to the theaters a lot. And a couple of months ago, we had Flint Dille on the show, and that was something I mentioned that I don't think my parents would have really enjoyed the idea of either dropping us off at the theater knowing we'd probably get in trouble, or having to sit through however long it was, toy commercial.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up seeing the movie maybe a couple months after the season 3 premiered on VHS, which I begged my mother to rent at from the fair in Spencer.
Oh, you rented your episodes.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, yeah, we rented. I saw it was on the shelf at the fair, and I was like, "Can we please rent this, Mom? Can we please?" And so she.
Was this before Stardust Video opened up?
This might have been around the same time, but I think at that time the fair was actually starting to have like a little video section of rentals. So we rented it from there, and I
Wasn't
told,
on the,
and I
the
immediately called one of my friends.
area.
Yeah, and I immediately called one of my friends down the
Furniture
street.
Also had VHS tapes.
Yes.
Oh, I remember those good old days of VHS rental where they had the special 18 and over adult section that you couldn't go, but your dad would go in, and like, you know, you'd be like hanging out with all the other places. Like, what's Dad doing back there?
I can see slightly through the beaded curtain.
But the moment I rented Transformers the movie, I immediately called my friend down the street, Jason Birch, and I was like, "You got to come over! I got it on video," because he hadn't seen it in the theaters either. So he was immediately up. You know, we watched it. So we, you know, it's like one of those things. Before that, I'd actually seen the miniseries that came out, Five Faces of Darkness, before I saw Transformers the movie. So this kind of filled in a lot of the holes for me. But you, Andrew, you'd mentioned you went to see it in the theaters. So
I remember when I was I went to see it in the theaters. My dad and I went to see it, and I was so hyped for that film. That movie was so hyped.
I remember the commercials for it.
I remember like this is the Transformers the movie. It will blow your mind. Your brain will explode. Like, you know, all this stuff. They were like really hyping the crap out of the movie. Like, oh my God, this movie's going to be the greatest thing ever. It's going to be so awesome. It's going to be better than Star Wars. And of course, you know, growing up with Transformers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they had been around for like 2-3 years at that point.
At least in the United States, it had become a really big, you know, between like in '84, it like really blew up with like the toy line, the comic books, and then the animated series. But before that, you know, they'd been big in Japan with the Diaclone series, which you know, Hasbro had taken the toys from.
In general, like if you got a TV show for a toy line, that was cool. But when you got a movie, that was like, oh my God, that's awesome.
I'm assuming you guys have seen the I believe it's a Netflix series, The Toys That Made Us.
Yes.
Of course.
That's a great series.
Yeah, it is a very good series, and particularly the Transformers episode.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I think, you know, I remember when I saw the movie in the theaters, and like the first 10 minutes, of course, spoiler alert.
Yes. It's not really a spoiler. It's been more than 20. It's been 30 years, people. Going on maybe what, 40 years now, almost?
At least. Yeah. I don't know how long ago, but
gosh.
I remember just watching that first 10 minutes. It felt like I was like, you know, I could hear like the theme for Platoon going off as they were just mindlessly just murdering off all these main characters from the TV show.
I know.
I was like,
the first time I remember a cartoon death.
I was like, not Ironhide.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Well, you think that is bad? I actually, we're talking with Flint. It would have been, even with his interviews, it would have been so much worse because he said they kind of planned this whole Charge of the Light Brigade where he goes, you basically just see your entire toy line just get mowed down.
Wow.
You know, every single character from the '84 line just get, you know, either just get like completely decimated or sort of limp his way to the end. And the thing is, they didn't realize at the time that, you know, kids had just like really grasped onto these characters or really connected with these characters because it was a toy show, and they were like the '84 line had been discontinued and they were bringing in the '85 line.
I was like, at first I was like, what the hell is going on? Like they everybody.
And it's just the way they did it too, you know, it's just like, I just remember the whole spaceship scene of just, you know, Starscream, like just blowing the crap out of like, all of a sudden he just like shoots, you know, all these characters. You see, like, I think it's like Prowl just like gets shot to the midsection, just start belching smoke.
This doesn't happen on the cartoon I watch after school.
And actually, the other part of the movie, I think this is something that I think was really great. It was the fact that they kind of chose almost both a synth and a metal soundtrack.
Yeah, I know.
And it's something actually a few years ago, Jamie and I were in his band room, and they were playing the Transformers the movie soundtrack in there. And we had this one kid who I don't even think he was in his 20s. And he's wondering where this is from. And we're just like, it's the Transformers the movie soundtrack, dude. And I think it was the song Instruments of Destruction by the band NRG, or I forget. And they actually sound, if you listen to the lyrics to it, or you listen to the singing, it actually sounds like a little like Megadeth, or at least the vocalist does.
Yeah, a little bit. It's got a little Dave
good thrash.
Mustaine twinge.
Yeah. But it was a really good sound. It was a really good soundtrack.
And the late 80s hair bands by 1986, 87 kind of merged together as far as sound quality goes.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely had different bands like Metallica and Megadeth that had their own particularly different sound and had been around for a while. But then you had your Wingers and your Firehouses and
your Rats.
Warrants and Rats and all these other different ones. I can see Jamie laughing his butt off. But yeah, Firehouse. Warrant with Cherry Pie,
God.
But which I actually really like that song. But anyway, but like that soundtrack was like, it was just so, it was like overindulgent metal like crazy. It was just, that was definitely.
But it was a ballsy move, especially for a cartoon, especially for an animated movie, just to pick like a completely like hard rock sounding soundtrack.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was 80s for you.
Also, the animation was probably some of the best the series had ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
With maybe, I think the only time the animation had been maybe just as good was like the early miniseries that introduced the Transformers. But I mean, this was like, you're doing a movie and you have like this, very
more time on it.
Very anime inspired. I mean, especially in that scene where you just see Unicron come into shot and he just kind of blows past you. And you see all like the little different, workings on them, just in like this really like extreme close up.
Intricate detail.
Yes, thank you. I mean, just that sort of stuff, and just that whole first scene of him just like basically devouring this planet of robots. He's like, oh, I know where this movie's going. And not only that, the voice cast they chose. I mean, this was like,
this is the last appearance of Orson Welles.
Yes, that's right.
Yep,
and apparently he was in very bad health when he did it. He just, from like Flint's stories, he pulled up to the studio in this giant Buick like car, and I guess his chauffeur helped him out, and he was in a wheelchair, and he just kind of
rolled out.
Basically, the guy was, at the time, he was about the size of a planet, so he was right to play the role.
He ended his career just like Charles Foster Kane.
It really did.
Rosebud peas.
But I mean, and I guess Nelson Shin, who was like one of the, I guess Nelson Shin, who was doing like the animation, they were listening to like his audio tracks, and his voice was just so weak when he did it. He's just like, he was at the time, he's like, oh no, we can't use this. His voice was so faint.
It's kind of like listening to James Earl Jones now. Or even like when they did Rogue One recently. I think we talked about this.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I think there's a very big parallel to that.
But you can definitely hear the difference of James Earl Jones in the new Rogue One. He's getting a little up there in his age.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you want to have as big a cast as you possibly want. I know that going a little off track, when they had like G.I. Joe the movie, they got Don Johnson as a character. Yep. And they had like a couple other like big names in the
Burgess
cast.
Meredith,
yeah, Burgess Meredith was one, but that was not usual for a lot of movies back then.
Absolutely not.
Today, in a lot of animated movies, like frickin' every major A-list actor is in a frickin'. But back then, it was not usual.
An animated movie can be done these days. Yeah. You have to have a big name connected to it in order for it to work.
Well, it's interesting because I actually saw a commentary video talking about that change over when Aladdin happened with John Williams. And when Robin Williams, rather, I'm sorry. When Robin Williams
all the Star Wars
Aladdin,
talk.
Suddenly, when Robin Williams did Aladdin, Hollywood was like, hey, forget about these unknown voice actor people. Let's get big name celebrities to play these characters.
And that kind of sucks, That really kind of sucks because there's a lot of voice actors who, that's their bread and butter.
Exactly.
But getting back to, actually the Transformers, the movie's voice acting, you had Leonard Nimoy as Galvatron. You had
yes.
You had Robert Stack as Ultra Magnus.
Mm-hmm.
This actor Lionel Standard, who played Cup, who was somebody who was like not hugely known even then, but at the point he had that right voice for that character. He had, the grizzled old soldier. You had Judd Nelson, who was part of the Brat Pack, as the young hero, Hot Rod.
Yeah, Hot Rod.
Who's soon to be, spoilers, Rodimus Prime, because Hasbro had this great idea that, we're going to replace Optimus Prime and bring in this brand new hero, and the kids will love him.
We need some more product for the kids to buy.
And guess what?
And what's this character's name? Poochie?
Exactly. And I think that was, again, it was a toy show, and they were bringing out the 86 line. So they were going to bring in, these new exciting futuristic characters, because for some reason they decided to bump it up to the year 2005.
Ooh, future.
Yeah, the old future. But
wow.
but then,
that basically that movie had so many great names connected to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Eric Idle also played the Scatman
Eric
Crothers.
Idle, yeah.
Yep.
And Scatman Crothers, yeah.
Yep, who was in the Transformers series as Jazz. Who had done a lot of great
he was always
voices.
Jazz, yeah.
Yep. So yeah.
Oh man, I just remember like that first 10 minutes is just hard.
I know.
That's probably the most shocking 10 minutes any kids have to watch.
And I guess it was going to be, like I said, I guess it was going to be worse than that. You were just going to see your entire toy line just get blasted out of existence.
Can you imagine if they did that to like My Little Pony? Like the My Little Pony movie.
I think
that's
why they ended up not killing Duke off in G.I. Joe the movie, because of just such the reaction to the death of Optimus Prime.
Oh God, yeah. Well, not only that, he's a human character.
Yeah.
A human character versus a robot's obviously a different change, But like, Duke, yeah, you're killing off a human character. So.
But even though that whole Optimus Prime scene when he just, basically, the Autobot city is under attack, and it looks like, everything's just gonna just go down the crapper, and suddenly here comes Optimus Prime flying in with the Dinobots. And
Grimlock.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just like basically Optimus Prime comes in, kicks gives up his life kicking Megatron's ass to turn the tide, and you just have that. That
Frank Welker did that, right?
Megatron, yes.
Yeah, Frank Welker. He's Curious George.
Yep, he's also Freddy from Scooby-Doo.
I have a 3-year-old, you can tell.
Yeah, yes. But yeah, so you had that whole, the whole scene. I just remember that whole scene of him just rolling in and just like, blasting Decepticons out of the way and just like facing Megatron that one last time, and just having that battle royale, which he basically, just both of them just get their ass kicked.
Yeah.
And it's just that whole scene, because basically Hot Rod fucks it up and gets Optimus Prime killed, and it's part of that whole hero's journey. Thanks, Hot Rod.
What are you, some kind of hot rod?
Hat rad.
Actually, I was more pissed off at the death of Starscream than I was at the death of Optimus Prime.
Yeah, that was another thing. Because, so Starscream knocks Megatron out of the shuttle.
That was my favorite part.
That was good.
Yeah, just because he just goes, how do you feel, oh mighty? It's like, it pains me to do this. And he's like, wait, I still function. Wanna bet? And just like drops him out of the shuttle. And just such a great scene.
And then like he's just crowning himself. He's about to crown himself.
Yeah, it's just like leader. Delusion of grandeur.
And he just like the new Megatron shows up.
Yep, Galvatron.
And basically zaps him.
Yeah.
Hey, this is me. I'm the upgrade.
Yeah. But that was the other thing. There was the story. Peter Cullen and Frank Welker reading the script for Transformers the movie, and Peter Cullen says like, "All right, here I am." Okay. And he goes, then I go back. I go a few pages, and I'm not there. And
time
I go
to type up the resume.
And then that was exactly his thing. And then he goes, then I showed. He goes, Frank, look at this. And Frank's like, oh. It's like he's like, well, there goes that car payment.
Well, guess we're not getting the pool this year, kids.
Exactly. Sorry. But I mean, honestly, a lot of people can talk about.
Nobody really wanted dinner tonight, did they?
No.
Sorry, kids.
Looks like it's meatloaf, kids. Yesterday's meatloaf from the homeless shelter.
I mean, a lot of people look at Transformers the movie as the kind of the death of the Transformers series, but I don't think so. I think it was one of those things that I think sooner or later, even without like the death of Optimus Prime, the series probably would have had, you know, it had its ups and it would have its decline. I mean, they didn't end up killing off He-Man and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, but eventually, you know, that lost its popularity. I think it's like anything with like a fad or pop culture. It's gonna, you know, sooner or later, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna decline. But in the sense of the death of Optimus Prime, here we are almost, you know, like 30 or 40 years later talking about it. So
yeah, I mean, honestly, like everything has its length of time.
exactly.
I always look at everything like it has like a shelf life, especially with media stuff.
Oh yeah.
And 86, 87, that was like 2 or 3 years already into the Transformers.
Right.
And you know, you got an audience of kids that are growing up and they're starting to get into other things.
Yeah.
The same thing happened to He-Man. You know, when the Masters of the Universe movie came out, I went to see it in the theaters, but like it flopped. It was like one of the big, and not
it was
only
like
that,
3 or 4 years too late too.
because people, yeah, it was really like if they wanted to make that movie, they should have made that movie 2 years earlier.
Right.
And the same thing with
the characters.
And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Well, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles might be a
everything
little
runs
different.
its course.
I think with the first movie, they hit right on the right target. You know, yeah, I think when they got to the third movie, it was just like,
Oh, the third movie was horrible.
Yeah, the third one was just like, what?
Yeah.
But like, you know, watching the Transformers movie in the theater, and like I could tell this, even as a kid, I could tell, okay, this is a shift in focus here. They're definitely doing something different.
Right.
Where are they gonna go? Now they have all these new characters with different settings and different motivations.
It was no longer on Earth.
Funny
it was
thing
now
about
in
it
space.
is, yeah, they did another. They continue after the Transformers movie. They did continue doing shows. They did Transformers show continued, but they did it in the future timeline.
Yeah.
And of course, Sam has a son.
Yeah.
And his son is hanging out with somebody else. I forget the name of the character.
Yeah, so it's sort of like that Bumblebee Spike relationship. Was, you know, instead of
it was
Bumblebee
kind of like
Spike. Yeah.
You know, it's like Bebop and the kid from Mask.
Yes.
You remember that?
I do.
It was basically that.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then there was an episode where they brought Optimus Prime back.
Yes, and they brought him back as a zombie.
That?
Well, there was one before they finally returned him. They brought him back as a zombie, and it was like, whose idea? Who thought this was a good idea? It's like you basically just killed him off in a show, and now not only are you going to kill him off again, you're going to do it in a way it's like, Daddy's never coming home, kids.
It's weird.
It was a really odd. It's like, you know, you thought you were getting hate mail now. I can't imagine what kind of hate mail you're getting after this one.
Could you have imagined what it would have been like if they did that today to Transformers, as big a brand as that was?
Oh, you're thinking about social
Twitter?
Oh God,
Twitter, Facebook, anywhere, and you know, it's like the pre days of even when it was message boards. People like, they did bad.
This is them.
Exactly. I mean, you know, back then you just had, you know, people writing in letters, or, you know, you talk about it on the playground. It's like, oh, why do they kill off Optimus Prime, man? Those guys suck. I'm not watching Transformers anymore.
You know, a lot of kids buried their Ironhides the day that movie dropped.
Sadly, as a figure, Ironhide kind of sucked.
He was a minivan.
Yeah, well, he never looked as cool as he did in the show. It's like I can't explain it. People would have to look up the original Ironhide figure from Hasbro and see what he looks like. He looks nothing like the cartoon. I
know. Like in the cartoon, he's a badass, but like in the cartoon, in the toy, like they had just repurposed him from like a Japanese toy.
Yep. Well, I think all of them.
Yeah.
All of them were. They were all, you know. It's like, but the thing is, what they did with the Diaclone ones is they didn't really have a backstory. They didn't get a backstory till like they were brought over by Hasbro, and I think the Marvel writers started like sort of sectioning them off. It's like, okay, so how are we going to do this? It's like, well, boys like cars. Cars are cool, so those will be the good guys, the Autobots. Jets are kind of, they're kind of creepy, not kind of unknown. Those will be the bad guys in the Decepticons, and the leader will be a gun, Megatron. Which in the original Diaclone, Megatron was the character who would eventually become Megatron was actually supposed to be a noble warrior.
Yeah, he was.
So that's how you kind of gets lost in translation.
And then, of course, you had like the middle of the 80s where all these like toy gun companies were under fire for
No
all...
puns intended, people, or
yeah.
is it?
Oh, bang!
Yeah.
You had all these gun toy companies like under fire for realistic looking toy guns.
Well, there's a story of one of the guys had the Megatron gun in his suitcase going through the airport. It was one of the people from Hasbro, and he just happened to have it to. I don't know if he was bringing it home to his kid or if he was going to a meeting and say, "Hey, look at this!" And of course the inspection officer was like, "What's this, sir?" It's like, "Officer, it's a toy. Let me show you." Click, 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 click. Megatron's penis. Click, click.
And that was the other thing too about those toys were they were very very hard to do, some of them.
Oh yeah, I broke the arms off the Megatron I had.
For some reason, I always had no problem with them. I could always put them back together.
Some of them I had no problem with. Megatron, for whatever reason, the arms, I don't know if they were just flimsy or what, but he was a pain in the ass. Well,
I actually have a friend who still has all of his original Transformers when he was a kid. And I went to visit him in Maine, and he had them all up there. And I'm like, "Oh my God, you have all these Transformers!" He's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, let's play with them." We're like 40-year-old men with like toys, and my daughters are like looking at us like,
I don't have any of my toys from growing up. I grew up with a lot of fireworks. So let's say all of my mask vehicles, all of my Transformers, my GI Joe vehicles, they all went up in.
My dad had an acetylene cannon.
They went up in like a platoon, like a mortar scene.
My dad could build acetylene cannons, which basically he kind of like would take car parts and make basically a cannon, and then he would take like an acetylene torch and fire it off. That's awesome. How Cobra Commander met his end on.
Have you ever seen it, Andy?
No.
He's never been up to my place.
Oh my God!
One of my folks' place. My dad. Yeah, he used to build. My dad's a mechanic, and he used to, have old car parts, and he could build stuff like this that he would do as a kid. So, but that's a story for another day. There? Oh, probably. I think it's on the roof of the garage.
Random plastic parts flown across the entire yard.
It would actually 4th of July would be great because everybody would be popping off their fireworks, and it's like, all right, you like that? Blam!
Yeah, right over by the lake, so it would just reverberate over everyone else.
Nice.
It was great. All right, edit point, Brett. Sorry.
That's okay. No, we'll keep that in. But yeah, going back to like the animation of Transformers the movie. I mean, it was, like I said, it had like the quality of like the Japanese, the really good Japanese animations. Maybe not like the really good Japanese animations, but it was like better than we've seen on the series, and even like the series 3, which the animation just kind of went really downhill. So that was like the really jarring thing, just like. Because they actually, I think like the miniseries 5 Faces of Darkness had like inserted like clips from the Transformers the movie, so you had like really good animation, then you had like really poor quality animation. So it's like, oh, okay, so it's like linking the story, but it feels like
it wasn't
two different worlds. Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is you're animating for TV versus you're animating for a big screen movie screen, so that's going to have a big impact.
But yeah, that too. And I mean, actually getting back to the Orson Welles voice, I think they ended up using like sound techniques to actually build up his voice, so it made make his character sound huge, even though the voice was still very small.
Pump up that bass. Just turn it up a little bit.
That's basically what they did. So, and actually, one of the stories I heard about Leonard Nimoy when he went in to do his vocals, he actually asked one of the people in the sound booth. He goes, "Do you have a restroom?" And they said, "Yes, over there." And he's like, "Okay." And I guess he went into the restroom and he did a bunch of vocal exercises before he went in, and then came out and said, like, "Okay, I'm ready."
Meanwhile, they got the microphone in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
Again, the microphone in the bathroom.
We're going to use those takes instead.
And there's another one. He actually, Leonard Nimoy ended up coming back for the live action Transformers movies.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he did do that.
Yep. He instead of being, Galvatron, I think he played Sentinel Prime in that one.
Now obviously we're talking about the 86 movie.
Yeah.
But like what are your feelings about the Transformers live action motion pictures?
I think they could have been so much better. I think as far as like story and character wise, as much as people have kind of at the time, the 86 movie was a box office bomb because kids walked out of the theaters in the long run.
Dragging their parents behind them.
Yeah. In the long run, I think it's story wise and like animation wise and character wise, I think it's actually better than the Michael Bay films.
Yeah, I think that with Michael Bay, listen, speaking as an individual with ADD, he has it a lot harder than I do. I'm just going to say that right now.
No, you're right.
The movie, I think the first movie is like 2 hours long, but it feels like it's 30 minutes.
Yeah. It doesn't have a focus to it.
There's no focus. It's just like boom, 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 all kinds of stuff happening every single
you're
moment.
Bombarded.
You just
have either of you ever seen the South Park where it's like basically they're asking, it's like Michael, I forget, it has Michael Bay in it for some reason. Mm-hmm. And he's like, and then we'll bring in this ship like whoosh, and then it'll go like whoosh and bah, and it's like you're not doing anything, you're just making sound effects.
I mean,
yeah, that's a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah, pretty much every single Michael Bay movie he's done. There have been a couple of movies that have had a lot more focus, but earlier in his career. Yeah. But like I think Transformers is when he just like went freaking right off the rails. Just
right. I mean, it's completely forgettable. I don't even remember what those movies were about.
There was like no pacing. There wasn't any really build up to anything. Or any character development.
And then there's actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You just put that movie on in the background while you're cleaning the house.
Because
you don't have to pay attention to anything. You're not like, your brain isn't, you have to sit down and watch the movie to get into the characters.
I'm going to say this though. I feel bad for Shia LaBeouf because this is a guy who he was starting to have a really good career.
Yeah.
He was starting to really move up. He worked in movies like Holes, which is a really good movie. And then he just started getting into these big movies with these directors who had no fucking idea what they were doing.
Mm.
And
Fury?
A Fury was good.
That was really good. He was really
good.
That
was good. And you know what? The problem is he should have been doing those kinds of movies instead of that. And I think that really kind of hit his career. And that psychologically damaged him, I think, a little bit. But
you got to wonder, yeah.
Looking at he put himself through an art exhibit one time where he had a bag over his head.
Yeah.
It's like, it's all my fault. And literally he
I'm not famous or something like that.
I'm not famous anymore. I feel bad for him. But
yeah.
I will say, I'll say the movies, and not only that, but the Transformers live action movies as he was doing them, they got worse. How many of those movies are there? 5 now?
I think 5, yeah.
I think what really drove me nuts is they didn't go with Frank Welker off the bat as Megatron. I mean, nothing against what's his name? Elrond from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, God.
Guy from Matrix, bad guy.
Hugo Weaving.
Hugo Weaving.
Nothing against him. He's a great actor. I mean, I have nothing against him, but they should have just gotten Frank friggin' Welker as Megatron to begin with, because you had Peter Cullen. And I just felt like they missed the boat by not getting a lot of. There's some of the actors you couldn't get the original voices of, but they really should have gotten the original voices to reprise their roles. They should have gotten the guy, the actor who played Bumblebee. They should have gotten all these people because they're still around, and that's what the fans want to see and they want to hear. They grew up with these cartoons, and
That was a hard thing to watch. These movies just.
Frank Welker's somebody who loves to do bass. He could do Megatron. He ended up doing Megatron in the later films.
I felt like the animation was just far too distracting.
Oh, the CG? Oh,
when they would
transform, and the design.
They had the thousands of gears inside them and stuff. I mean, it's so incredibly crazy.
I didn't like the designs. I did not like the designs.
Not only that, but you'd have the close-up, like everything would be so close.
Yes.
You couldn't really see anything.
Yeah, the sense of scale got easily taken away whenever one of them would put their face right in the camera, and you can see that weird metal mouth moving around. And
they gave Optimus Prime lips.
I am Optimus Prime.
Has a weird cigar, the metal cigar that he's smoking. Like, what? Come on.
Or like just the bad comedy and jokes that they threw in.
Yeah.
Like Section 7.
Let's just throw in John Goodman. He's a great comic actor. He can be a Transformer. He can't.
And then when they had Shia LaBeouf finally got his act together and said, "I can't be in this shit anymore."
Yeah.
He went and it was like Mark Wahlberg, as if that was somehow an upgrade.
Yeah. Although
I think he did 2 of those.
Although I will say with the Bumblebee movie that came out, I haven't seen it.
Transformers.
Yeah.
The Bumblebee movie. Now that was good.
Yeah, I like that. It's like they went with the character designs from the cartoon. They upgraded it a bit, but not in a way where it looked like distracting.
The whole opening with Cybertron in that movie.
Yeah.
It's that's the Autobot movie. They had Soundwave.
Yes.
At the way he should have been. They had Optimus Prime as he should have been.
Yes.
All these major characters in the first 5-10 minutes of the film, and Bumblebee comes down. And honestly, I gotta say this, even John Cena, who, he's he's really like, the wrestler comedy type of guy.
Yeah.
But he did comedy? A good. Yeah, well, I mean, he's done, John Cena.
He did comedy?
Okay. He was in Fred the movie or whatever.
He does what he does. He's not, I don't hate him. I don't hate him in what I see him in.
I think he did a great job in that movie. But the other thing too is like
I'm actually looking forward to seeing him in that Suicide Squad movie as the douchey Captain America.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he enjoys what he does.
Exactly.
In it, you can tell he enjoys it. But I was actually pretty impressed with his acting, and I forget the name of the actress who played against Bumblebee, but she did a really good job.
Oh, cool.
I thought the backstory of her and her father and everything else like that it really made a lot of sense, and it was actually a sweet film. It really was.
And they had to come out, and they had to take place in
her and Bumblebee.
And they had to take place in like 84, 85, which is when the series took place.
Exactly. That's the Transformers movie we were waiting for like 20, 30 years. They should have done it then.
Well, it's like Hollywood feels like, oh, we got to make this dynamic. It's like, we got to make this exciting. We got to make this dynamic. We got to make this. We got to upgrade it. We got to this. We got to that. And it's like, all you really have to do is think what the fans want. And they want to, they enjoy the original show. You can do things like they did with the Bumblebee movie, where you change things a little bit. And they do that with the Marvel movies too. They don't make it just like, the comic, chronology or like the origins. They change it to fit in within the world they're, the cinematic world they're creating. But, do it in a way that's just not so jarring and just so bland. And I think that's the biggest problem with the Michael Bay movies is they just, Jamie, you said it, they're forgettable. They are absolutely, it's like when you said
completely forgettable. I have no idea what happens in that.
No, when you said that, it's like, you're right. I don't remember one thing about what happened in the first Transformers movie. It's like I couldn't care less about these characters.
As far as like trying to describe a scene of that movie from somebody, you could be describing Transformers 1 and then suddenly describe a scene from Transformers 3 and not even remember that they're
Whereas I could tell you exactly what had happened in the 86 Transformers movie, the Autobots are on the losing side. The Decepticons have reclaimed Cybertron. Optimus Prime gets killed. Optimus Prime, becomes the leader. It's sort of in the hero's quest, that whole hero's journey thing. You could tell what happened in that story. The Michael Bay movies, it's like it's just like it's like you just ate a lot of cotton candy, and you're gonna get the same. It doesn't matter how much cotton candy you eat, you're gonna get that same feeling. Nothing afterwards.
Applies for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Michael Bay it's the same thing.
Oh yeah,
yes.
He did the exact same thing there too.
Oh, and he also brought in what's her name, Megan Fox.
With Jolt. Yeah. Oh.
Both movies had Megan Fox in them.
Well, that was the funny thing about this is actually funny because when she was supposed to do the third movie, she apparently said something that upset him because she said something negative about him or whatever. I'm not sure what it was. And
probably the truth.
Fair enough.
So when it came to the third movie, she was ready to go in. And what they ended up doing was they literally cut her out and threw another actress in as the love interest. And they didn't even change the dialogue.
Wow.
They didn't even change the dialogue. This is like, okay, here's a new actress. And like they got a new girl in it. And it was just so forgettable.
Yeah, I think you guys summed it up. Like I said, you can describe the plot to the '86 Transformers movie, and you can watch it over and over again, or at least I can watch the Transformers movie over and over again.
Andrew remembers where he was when he saw it.
But
Showcase Cinemas North in Worcester.
No kidding.
Yep, nice. Showcase. Yeah, the Showcase
like
Cinemas.
Said, the Fair and Spencer rented it off the shelf multiple times.
Now it's the Hanover Theater.
Yep.
Where they have like the Nutcracker.
Are you sure you didn't rent it from Whitco?
Nope, didn't rent it from Whitco. Did not rent it from Whitco. Did not rent it from Video Studio 31.
Did not get it from Gallo Video.
Oh gosh.
I actually
ended up watching some of those old commercials. It's funny. There was actually an old commercial I remember back in the day for Gallo Video where it says, and check out our adult section. And there's this shot of this one girl standing there, and I always felt bad for her. It's like she's probably just in there looking for some other video, but it's like, okay, you got known as the woman who's like standing in the porno section in an ad for
employee.
Yeah,
one female employee.
I'm here for the original Jungle Book for my child.
Exactly. That's probably it.
The camera's here for.
We're filming a quote unquote commercial. It's probably what some.
This looks like a nature documentary. Rumble in the Jungle 300? I don't understand.
Why, everyone in that room is naked. It must be nature documentary.
Yeah.
What's this, the Lion
They're all
King?
naked and hugging.
What's this video? The Lion King?
Forrest Hump.
Robocock.
Oh, nice.
The good old days.
Yep. No, it's like, I think you said it right. Where, you remember where you were when you saw the film.
Pretty much.
And the other thing I remember about it, the Weird Al's Dare to Be Stupid during the Junkion scene. They just kind of are, even though they just arbitrarily, put the song in there, because I think the soundtrack was done by the same company Weird Al's music was being done through Scotty Brothers. But still, it was Weird Al. I was a Weird Al fan back then.
We need a funny song for this scene. What do we got? That weird Al guy.
That crazy Al.
Crazy Al. Whatever his
name is.
Big Al.
What about that guy? The kids love him. What's his name? Leonard Cohen. Is that it?
Nah, forget it.
Well, that was
that Weird Al. He does that song called "Eat It."
That was the scene during the Junkion Planets where they actually had Eric Idle as the Junkion leader in that. And at the time, I started watching Monty Python when I was 5 years old. So when I found out Eric Idle was in the movie, that's what sold me.
There you go.
And he was a character.
That Eric Idle did things other than Monty Python blew my mind when I was that young.
That's true too.
Oh, that was the other thing too. When you find out like actors, like big name actors, are gonna take the time to voice like a freaking Transformer.
I know.
Wow.
You know, Mr. Spock is the villain, and it sounded nothing like Spock from the TV, but you know, he's using probably something closer to his own voice.
Robert Stack, I see him on Unsolved Mysteries.
Well, that was in the days before Unsolved Mysteries, and one of the things actually Flint mentioned in his interview a couple months ago was, I guess Robert Stack was actually very nervous about voice acting because he just
really
he I guess he just wanted to do it. He just wanted to do it right, but so he wasn't just sure what to do because he was used to physical acting, and it's like they just basically said, you know, just be yourselves, they got him for his particular voice, and once he did it, he just nailed the part, and then it's like we're hearing him like several years later as the voice on Unsolved Mysteries. But there's another story about him on air doing the production for Airplane, where it's like apparently him and Lloyd Bridges were in the movie, and I guess Lloyd Bridges was getting really kind of annoyed with some of the dialogue, and he just didn't get it, and he was just kind of some of the lines he was just getting really annoyed with the production, and Robert Stack was like, he just basically said, lighten up, Lloyd, they just want us to be us. And it's like after that, it's like Robert Stack got it. He just immediately got the humor. It's like,
like the whole to be us.
It's like the whole scene of him in the room where he's like getting ready, and it looks like he's fixing things up in front of a mirror, and then he walks out the door, and of course he's not standing in front of a mirror, or he's got sunglasses on and he takes them off and he's got another pair of sunglasses.
Yeah. Oh my God, that movie is just.
I feel like he just got those things. He was like this serious actor. He played Elliot Ness on the Untouchables. But he's here he is playing a comedy.
I mean, that goes right back to Leslie Nielsen, who was like a professional. That was his first comedy role.
Yep.
With the nose, everything's perfectly fine.
And that role almost went to Christopher Lee. And and he, I guess, to his dying day, he regretted not playing that role. But at the time, it just didn't feel right to him.
Can you imagine them doing Christopher Lee as a doctor, and then suddenly he has fangs?
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious.
You can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. Just said, but I mean, that was another one. Leslie Nielsen and I think it was definitely the way he didn't play it for laughs. He didn't like mug it for the camera. He didn't play it funny. He just played it straight and serious. We're making a serious movie that no one else knows is actually a comedy. You guys are playing it real.
The funny thing about that is that's actually almost a complete remake of another movie, disaster
Airport
movie.
75?
Not Airport 75.
0 Hour.
0 Hour.
Oh,
correct.
Okay.
And 0 Hour, they were so concerned about the fact that they were going to be like upset because they were afraid that somebody was going to oh, you guys are trying to steal that movie. They literally bought the rights to the film. They bought the rights to 0 Hour so that they could make fun of 0 Hour with nobody giving them a hard time about it. That's how you do it, buddy. Yeah. That's how you do it. Oh my gosh.
Well, actually, getting back to Transformers the movie, I saw at Target recently they started re-releasing like these 86 versions of the Transformers figures.
Yeah.
Really?
I got one or two of them, and they look really nice. I mean, this is sort of the way you'd want the figures to look as a kid when you were a kid. They look like the characters.
Full die-cast metal?
No.
They have some
That's
repros.
What I always wanted.
Yeah. They have some repros out there now where they're actually reproductions of the original Transformers as they originally were released.
Oh, yes.
That's one of the things that they have. They had an Optimus Prime.
That was the one I always wanted as a kid.
As a kid, I had a Starscream and a couple others. I had Jazz and I had
my brother had Jazz, and that was one I always thought was really cool looking.
That was a cool looking one.
Yeah.
But so now they have the repros coming out. And they're like ridiculous amounts of money.
Of course.
Nowadays, people buy them to keep them in the box.
Right.
I'm gonna buy them so I can blow them up.
The ones I bought, Jamie's
gonna buy it just to blow it up.
Well, no, I bought them from Target. I didn't keep them in the box. I I took them out. They're on display in my TV room.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I've got
that and the GoBots.
Yep.
I have.
yeah.
I have my
for real.
my slave Leia action figure over there. You know, she's got a space cannon
action figure.
Action figure.
Actually, that was one thing I was able to keep as a kid. My dad actually had a lot of my old Star Wars figures, which I ended up I have these like this little area up on my ceiling where it looks like you could like store like Hummel figures up there. And so when we were moving in, my parents helped us move in. My dad's like, "Oh, that looks like a great area where you could put like little Star Wars figures." So he gave me my original Star Wars figures, and I was able actually to find on eBay places that like made reproductions of like the old capes and the lightsabers, stuff that you lost as a kid.
Yeah.
So I was able to buy
or faded in time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys out there that actually have 3D printed versions of toys. And here's actually a good example. There's this one guy, he's a big Battlestar Galactica fan. And so the Battlestar Galactica toys were of different scales. So the fighter was the wrong scale for the actual figure that they put out. So this guy literally redesigned the Viper, and it's a scaled toy for the actual figure, so you can put your actual
huge.
Yeah, it's big,
like 3 feet long or something.
Wow.
Yeah, it's sizable. But
actually, the thing about the Transformers figures that came out now, that like the 86 remakes, they're actually better than the ones that came out in 86. Because I remember looking at the original 86 figures. That the 84, 85 ones were always great. I was looking at the 86 ones again. It's like, oh, they're not as good as I remember them looking as a kid. And these ones, they actually, even though it's not die cast, it's plastic, they made them look like the characters from the movie. Hot Rod, they gave Hot Rod like the matrix of leadership, and they even have like little pieces you could put on the matrix where it looks like it's like shooting light and everything to. And that was the other thing. A few years ago, they actually had a Kickstarter to release this gigantic Unicron figure.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And it was this thing was, I guess, Flint had been one of the guys who like was promoting it and backing it, and this thing looked crazy.
I think it's from HasLab, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. They have a
Jamie,
history.
look this up.
They have a history of doing this, where they would do crowdfunding for different projects. Unicron was one. Jabba's sail barge is another that they did.
Would this be like the size of the? Do you remember the
Yosa's flag?
GI? Yes, thank you. You thought you read
pretty much. And these things are like this ridiculous. You can actually check out some of these people on YouTube that actually bought these things for like $400 or $500.
Holy crap, mackerel!
And I mean, the sail barge is ridiculous. It like has features that you never saw, in the movies. Like the sail barge has a cockpit. It has a slave area, or like a dungeon area in the sail barge. So it has all these little details and stuff.
I didn't remember that from the movie.
I didn't see that in the film, but
I would have wanted to later on.
Yeah, it would be great. But like they had all kinds of stuff in that. But that's what HasLab does. Yeah. I think one of their latest thing is the Razor Crest from Mandalorian. I think they're going to do that. I don't know if I think they canceled it. Because spoiler alert, it got destroyed.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yes.
So I guess they stopped.
Oh please! If anybody hasn't seen that by now, get over yourself.
I know, you just have to, because people get upset on Twitter.
Yeah.
And they try to cancel you.
Whoa! Why did you tell me that? I was saying.
What do you mean, Rosebud's the sled? Bitch.
How long have you been waiting for? God damn it, people! But yeah, I remember the Unicron figure because I think it had like a head you could detach, like at the end of the movie.
Yeah, they did.
And like you could open the mouth on them, and you're just like, holy, because it's like if you saw the original prototype for a Unicron in '86, you're just like, that's what they've released. Okay.
Thank God didn't get out there.
I see where you're going with this, but I'll get back to you on that one. But this one, I mean, it's just like the detail on you, like, damn.
Well, I mean, you get a planet-sized transformer.
Well, that was the other thing Orson Welles mentioned when he was talking to somebody. He's like,
I play a planet.
Yes, it's the strangest thing. I play this planet.
Is somebody mocking me?
Yeah. And then I seem to blow up. And I guess he was just really fascinated, like doing a movie where he's playing a toy. I mean, he was just that kind of a guy where it's just like, it was the role that, intrigued him. And I guess he ended up talking. A lot of the guys on the production team knew about him ripping the ad exec to shreds when he was like doing the commercials for the floors. Oh, this really is shit. This.
Yeah, they got him between wine commercials.
And I guess one of the guys that mentioned to him, he goes, you realize you really make, this really makes people nervous. He goes, oh, I know. I kind of like it.
Oh, good days.
Orson Welles has always been one of those actors, especially later in life, sort of like in a Brando way where he's always kind of fascinated me.
Yeah.
When he just became kind of, when he got a little older and a little more eccentric, where he just, be doing magic tricks and stuff like that.
Well, he's definitely one of those old Hollywood actors.
Yes.
And he definitely had a way about him in his career to kind of mess people up. Like, especially when he first, I mean, he was just he just directed. That's what he did. He was a stage guy. And then of course, when he transitioned to film, Citizen Kane was his first film, it ends up being the best film ever made.
Yeah.
Like, that's a pretty heavy load to kind of like overcome.
Well, that was the story where he apparently, because one of the inspirations for Kane was what's his name, William Randolph Hearst.
Yep.
And there was a story. Apparently, him and Hearst were in an elevator together, and Wells asked him, "Are you going to see Kane, Mr. Hearst?" And William Randolph Hearst is like, "No, I'm not going to see it." He goes, "Well, Kane would see it." And just basically throwing him a little bit of that shade.
Yeah, I think that was written by the screenwriter for that. Actually, was a guy that knew a lot of trouble from Hearst because of that. Because
there was a story,
the Rupert Murdoch of his day.
Well, I don't know if the story's true or not, but there's something I heard where, Rosebud the Sled was actually a name Hearst had given to his mistress, Marion Davies' lady parts.
Yeah, that's true.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Called them his little rosebuds. And so just to throw that in on the screen, you got to have a big pair of cojones to do that.
Yeah, so especially 1940, definitely.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, just so I do, that's why I kind of tip my hat to like Wells and the writer and people like that. Just
pretty much.
Basically just said, fuck you, Hearst.
But yeah,
this was a guy who actually, I'm sorry, this was a guy who made marijuana illegal because it was eating into his paper, making his, because he was a paper mogul, and so the marijuana plant was ripping into his paper.
Oh yeah,
paper.
hemp.
Yep,
hemp paper.
So that's how the whole, reefer madness, the whole, that whole campaign started.
Yep. But like, when we talk about like, old Hollywood actors getting into like, stuff that they didn't have any idea what the hell they were doing.
Right.
I think that he was clearly out of his depth when he finally got into Transformers.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's like, it's sometimes it's deliciously ironic.
Yeah.
When you hear about their final roles like this. Like,
I know.
Like occasionally you have like the old Hollywood actor that gets a great last role.
Yeah.
Like Vincent Price in Edward Scissorhands.
Yes.
I think that was probably the most poignant.
Sir Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness. What was his last role?
I don't know.
Was it Star Wars?
No, it wasn't Star Wars because he acted in a few things after that. He was in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what his last is. I'd have to look that up. What is?
Let us consult the Google.
Please write into the program if you know what Alec Guinness's last role is. Write to this address.
Write to us right now.
Yeah, right now. Right as you're listening to this. Write to us.
Hold on.
And put it on a self-addressed stamp. Join us.
Join us.
Join the MST3K Information Club.
Yes.
Hopkins, Minnesota. All right.
Thank you, Tom Servo.
Interview Day was his last movie.
Okay.
1996. And of course, episode 4, A New Hope, deleted scenes, 2011.
Oh, okay.
That's the IMDb. So it must have been like something like England or something like that.
Well, I got
that
the
wasn't
script.
released in the US.
Well, I got the script, and the dialogue was a bit
It
ropey.
paid the bills.
There was some good bones in that.
It paid the bills. But yeah, so I mean, like, you know, Transformers definitely, if you had to like look back on any kind of like toy phenomenal thing that was really just, you know, instrumental in really shaping pop culture, that would be one of them.
I
obviously. Agree. And I think the hotness, it was kind of like one of those white hot things.
Yes.
I mean, you can still buy Transformers merchandise today, but it's not like it is today. It's not like it was when we were kids.
No, absolutely not.
They were like, I remember like just going into a toy store and like half the aisle would be just Transformers.
Yep.
You know? Same thing with Star Wars. Same thing with any of these other things.
Yep.
They'd have play sets galore. They'd have all this, but Transformers was one of the big ones.
Yep.
And,
no, I agree.
You know, you're lucky if you see like a sliver of what they used to have.
It was a toy. It was an action figure and a Rubik's Cube all in one, because you'd have the action figure, but then you'd have the whole Rubik's Cube part where you know, try to transform it into like the car, and then you'd have the ones that you could transform into like 5 or 6 different things, like the triple changers.
Oh, I had a triple changer.
Oh, you lucky bastard.
I had the
ones that would connect into a more gigantic one, the construction.
Oh, the Constructicons.
The Constructicons. Yes. I remember like kids would like try to get those, like, I want all 5 of them for my birthday. Yeah. So they would like say, you make sure you get this one, you get this one, you get this one. So like they'd like strategize. Okay.
And all the Dinobots came together and created a giant one.
I don't think the Dinobots ever did, but the Dinobots were just cool as fuck.
Oh yeah, they were.
The Constructicons definitely. They would like, one was like a half an arm, or an arm.
Yeah.
You know.
But I had the Stegosaurus as a kid as the Dinobots. My brother had the pterodactyl. Yeah. So I always wanted Grimlock. I thought Grimlock was cool as fuck.
I had Grimlock. I had.
Okay, so just a question, obviously, since we're on the big topic of Transformers the movie, and we talked about the live action movies, what toy series or toy TV show that has not gotten a live action movie that you want to see, that you think would be great for them to bring back and make as a live action film?
Black Star.
Ooh.
That was like proto He-Man.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I always wanted to see it because it was like a great series.
That giant glob. Didn't Black Star have the giant glob?
No, you're thinking of Herculoids.
Oh, the Herculoids.
That's another one that would be great.
That'd be another good one.
But that was like Black Star was like proto He-Man. It was like the characters looked very Masters of the Universe, but it was like 2 or 3 years prior to Masters of the Universe, and it was Saturday morning. But it was a similar thing where, you know, guy, he lands on a distant planet, becomes the hero. There's 2 swords. There's like an evil ruler. But I thought as a kid it was like a really cool series.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was like one of those things. It was one of those things. I think it was one step off from, you know, what the success He-Man had, because they just hit the right idea. You know, like it's like Space Conan the Barbarian.
Well, one movie they could probably make these days would be
Herculoids,
the Bionic 6.
Oh gosh, I'd forgotten about. Thank you.
Bionic 6 would be good.
That would be a fantastic, what were they? Like Karate 1 was one of the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a family.
I was going to say, it's like the Fantastic Four, where it was like all slightly a family of.
And those toys, I remember, were partly metal.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
How about this one? Mask.
Oh, yeah.
I could see that working.
That would be fantastic. Only my version of Mask would be kind of like a comedy, where you have Will Ferrell and he's like working for a defense contractor, So he takes billions of their dollars and he makes these mask cars, and like then he gives the bad guys some mask cars, and he says, "Okay, these are the bad guys. They're the Venom guys." And they're like, "Why did you give them this stuff?" Well, because they're the bad guys. And I
wanted to see this.
Yeah, and by the way, your name is now Matt Tracker. I changed it legally. You have to lead the mission. I could just see that happening.
Oh yeah, I could
totally Talladega Nights kind of thing. That would be hilarious.
What about Silverhawks?
There's another one that
would be a pretty good one too.
Because I know they've been trying to they've tried to do the Thundercats over and over again, but there was another one that it's almost felt like the same shared universe as the Thundercats. I think because it was the same.
Yes. Lino.
But another one actually is a little one that's not as known as Thundar the Barbarian.
Oh yes.
Which was co-created by Jack Kirby.
Yep.
But that's an interesting one because it's like it takes place in I think it's supposed to be Earth 94. But for our purpose,
it was like wizards and stuff.
Yeah, but it was like sort of like I said, a Conan the Barbarian, but it's like an Earth's future after
a post-apocalyptic.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Oh.
So I think there's still properties
he had like a laser sword, I think.
Yeah.
That was a pretty crazy. Let me see.
And that was one of the. And I don't think they'd ever had a toy line either. It was just one of those like really quirky cartoons that came out like late 70s, early 80s. That just they just kind of threw out there on the airwaves.
I remember my dad and I watched that. I remember watching that with my dad.
Yeah.
It's a weird show.
Was Herculoids the one that had the Triceratops that would fire?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And they had the blobby creatures that went.
Yes.
Which became a running gag on like Family Guy.
Live action Space Ghost.
I'd actually watch that.
That would be funny.
Live action Space Ghost or Birdman. I'd actually.
Oh, Birdman.
Birdman, I'm promoting
Harvey
you.
Birdman.
Yeah. Birdman, I want you to do a trust exercise with me. I did a trust exercise once. It was at camp, and I was supposed to catch a girl, but I missed her. Come on, let me catch you, Birdman, because she was fat. Let me hold you.
Oh my God.
Stephen Colbert is Phil Ken Seven. Ha ha! Dangly parts.
Voltron would be an interesting one if they tried to do live action.
Which version though?
The lion one.
Oh, of course.
I didn't like the other. They didn't know the other version was all different vehicles.
I remember that one. Yeah.
That wasn't as cool. I like the lion one.
No, it's just
most people do. Well, people still talk about in these reboots of the lion one because that's the one that people.
It would be another one would be interesting to watch. And I think they did this in Japan, a version of Star Blazers.
Oh, they did a live action movie of that.
I think they did, and I seen scenes and clips and everything else. That would be an interesting.
That and Battle of the Planets.
Battle of the Planets. That's the one I was thinking of.
Or
it has the same style.
Or in Japan, as it was called, Gatchaman, which they had a live action movie of. But I loved that as a kid. I thought, I loved the bird, the bird motif. I just, for whatever reason, I thought that was just so cool as a kid.
Yep. Totally cool.
But this, just mining that, gold of our childhood.
I mean, honestly, you take a look at what's going on with like entertainment today, and like everything old is new again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're cool again.
I know.
Nice.
Like it only took like 30 years.
You're right.
Yeah. Oh, give it up, guys. We've never been cool, and that's the way we like it.
I watched Doctor Who on public television.
And we loved it. We loved
Pledge
it.
Week. That's how I binged my Doctor Who.
Pretty much so, yeah.
When they were begging for money.
So I don't know if you guys are ready, but I'd prepared. I found another script for us to perform, but
another script.
But this is actually kind of interesting. This is actually interesting because before the Transformers cartoon came out, there was actually, I don't know if you guys remember, there was the comic book came out first.
Yep.
Because I don't know if you guys remember the commercials for it. They'd have like it was like the very first time you'd see the Transformers animated, and it's like, and see all the action in Marvel Comics.
Now the other thing too is, and before we get off on Transformers and everything, we should also talk about the comparison between Transformers and GoBots.
That's interesting though, because it's one of those things.
That's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll be really quick on this, but I mean, one of the big things obviously was because a lot of these toy companies in Japan were like literally being bought out by everybody. And I think it was Galoob that was doing GoBots.
No, it was Tonka, because GoBots.
Tonka, okay.
Because I think Transformers were done by Diaclone, and GoBots were actually being distributed by Bandai, I think it was.
Yes.
And Tonka, kind of swooped in and got what was the GoBots from Bandai, or whatever they were called in Japan. Because I don't remember. Yeah.
The thing about it was, if you watched the cartoons, the comparison between the cartoon of Transformers versus the cartoon of GoBots, you could definitely see there's quite a quality difference.
Well, one was done by Hanna-Barbera, and actually, I think Transformers was being produced by Marvel Studios at the time.
Yes.
Which did Dungeons and Dragons and a bunch of other cartoons. But
yes.
Yeah, and Hanna-Barbera wasn't necessarily known for their quality animation.
It wasn't very good.
No, it was.
They were known for getting it out, for pumping it out.
That's what she said.
I mean, if you were to compare like the opening of Transformers versus GoBots, I think that pretty much says it all you need to know.
I couldn't agree more. But the GoBots has the history of, they came out, I think it was like maybe a few days or 1 week before Transformers did. They just managed to eke it out right. But it was one of those things. They may have won the battle, but Transformers eventually won the war.
Basically, yeah.
So
that's all I really wanted to say about that.
No, but actually, it's a good point. I mean, that was
all I got to say about that.
But as I was saying about Transformers before the cartoon, there was the Marvel comic series and it was one of these interesting things at that time where the TV show and the comics, the stories kind of went in two different directions. So and they did things that on the cartoon that were really interesting, but they also did things in the comic books that I would have really loved to have seen on the show. And one of them was they had an issue which was like this battle royale between Shockwave and Megatron, which they never really did in the comics. And they ended up just like saying, Shockwave, you want to stay on Cybertron and be my, and just watch over it. And you had Shockwave, who was like a cool as hell character. That was always the one at Zehrs I always wanted to buy, was Shockwave, because he was just like this really cool, futuristic looking laser gun.
Mine was Caldor.
Dude, the fact that you mentioned Zehrs just like ups the level for you that much, especially like from New England standards.
Oh, hell yeah.
The Fair, Zehrs, Caldor.
I think every state has like their regional stores, and these were ours. And I just remember that, just seeing the Shockwave figure at Zehrs, and just I never got it. I always kind of wanted it, but I think he was a character that when Hasbro was like trying to find other figures to I think he might have been something at Radio Shack that Hasbro ended up like buying the rights to and re-releasing as Shockwave, whereas they ended up getting into a lot of trouble with the character of Jetfire, because Jetfire was the original figure was actually from Robotech.
Yeah, from Macross.
Which was actually owned by Bandai, Diaclone's arch rival. So I mean, I guess Hasbro ended up getting this figure without finding out the rights. So that's why kind of Jetfire never really had like a long life on the television series, because of rights issues.
Well, the other thing too is the other issue is that when Robotech came out in the US and they needed to come up with stuff from the show to sell, they were going to sell the Macross fighter as part of it, but they had to literally modify all the toys so that they couldn't fully transform. All they could do was the jet length combination. That was it.
Okay. Oh, that's too bad.
And there's a lot of collectors who have attempted to modify existing like ZD1s, I believe that's what they call them, to do that. But Jetfire essentially it's kind of a sad situation because the Macross, the whole Macross thing that was a perfect example of like interconnectivity between Transformers and Macross and other things that kind of got lost to the wayside because Jetfire really was never a character in Transformers.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
Well, they kind of ended up changing his name to Skyfire in the cartoon just to sort of, I think, distance themselves from that faux pas, I guess,
But the problem obviously is that all the people who were fans of Robotech got kind of screwed in the deal, which sucked.
Absolutely. Okay, so getting back to it, it was actually a favorite issue of mine when I was a kid. I remember buying it. It was like this again. It was like this incredible battle between Megatron and Shockwave, which I always kind of wanted to see in the comics. In the animated series, because Shockwave just seemed like such a badass character who would probably like kick Megatron's ass.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up adapting it into script form. So I thought we could act it out, and I figured, Andrew, if you wanted to take the role as the narrator, sort of trying to,
yes.
I was just going to say, try to channel the spirit of the original narrator from Transformers the series and Transformers the movie, and Jamie, if you wanted to take the role of Shockwave. Also, if you guys wanted to, there's also a couple other characters as the football player and the coach. If you guys, whichever, if you wanted to take one of those characters, like if Andrew, if you wanted to be like
I'll do the coach.
Player. Okay, and Jamie, you want to play the football player?
I'll do football player. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'll do my Bill Belichick.
We do with a little more excitement than that.
A little more excitement than
because you got giant robots flying everywhere. But I guess Bill Belichick wouldn't feel anything. It's like, what? Oh, that's scary. Oh, damn.
Oh,
I have feelings.
No, you don't. You're a robot.
I'm glad we won the Super Bowl again.
Yeah.
All right. When you want me to just take it from the top?
I'm happy. Yeah. All right. Yeah, let's take it from the top.
The Transformers, the worst of two evils. Inside the Ark, the one-time base of operation for the heroic Autobots, now occupied by the evil Decepticons under the leadership of Shockwave, who is taking command while Megatron recovers from extensive injuries. However, Megatron, despite his weakened condition, decides to confront Shockwave and take back command of the Decepticons once and for all.
Shockwave, you are relieved of your command. What?
The force of the blast from Megatron's fusion cannon sends Shockwave flying for miles over the Oregon landscape until he lands slamming onto a high school football stadium in the valley below. What the heck?
I don't know, but I hope he's not playing for DeForest High this Saturday.
Let's get out of here! Minutes pass until nearby.
You can't hide from Megatron. I will crush whatever life remains within you. I will... More life flows through my circuits than you can ever crush, Megatron. You are fools at me. At your full strength, you are less than me. And you are not at full strength.
In a display of his superior strength, Shockwave proceeds to remove a nearby water tower and use that as a weapon against his foe.
Your wound will not fully heal. Pain still wraps your being with every move. Your reaction time is but a fraction of what it was. But every measure, I am your superior. That is why you shall lose this battle. Why I command the Decepticons. Oh, never! Never! I am commander of the Decepticons!
Shockwave then proceeds to bring the water tower he is wielding down on Megatron.
Your unhealed wound left vulnerable to short-circuiting from the water unleashed, Megatron. Your own misguided actions opened a doorway to your doom. Now, I shall close it.
With that said, Shockwave transforms into his futuristic Cybertronian handgun mode and opens fire upon Megatron.
No!
Satisfied his adversary has been defeated, Shockwave pulls Megatron out of the smolder crater by his neck.
No! I could tear your head from your body, reduce your remains to a molten, worthless slag, Megatron. The logic dictates you have significantly greater value to me alive than dead.
As though he were nothing but worthless scrap, Shockwave tosses Megatron aside into the remains of the buildings they have demolished in their battle.
Your demise shall come at a time of my choosing.
Broken and defeated, Megatron lies among the debris. The only thing keeping him function is the hatred burning within his mainframe he feels for the one Decepticon who has ever defeated him.
Me live is worse than any pain you can inflict upon me, Shockwave. You shall yet suffer for this indignity. You shall pay.
And scene! For a moment there, and this is actually really funny, I thought Vinny Barbarino had shown up and became like, you know,
I had to do that.
That was great.
No, that was fantastic.
But the very second you guys said, "Oh, you're gonna have to do some high school voice," I was like, "Oh my gosh, I completely forgot how to do."
You needed like Rorschach going, "Oh, Mr. Carter,
Mr. Carter." Think of any douche we went to high school with, you know.
Yeah,
we have many,
kind of like eggheads. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had many that I had to deal with in high school.
I think we all did.
Everybody had like a guy named, like, I had a guy by the name of Porky.
Oh,
that was his name. Everybody called him Porky, and he was like one of these like white kids is into rap music, and he had like a big clock around his neck.
No,
he would literally walk around high school with a big clock, like Flavor Flav clock, and like
there's only one person who can pull that off, and that's Flavor Flav.
And so he would get pissed off because people would ask him what time it was.
You're wearing a big clock. Do the math.
Yo, man, just look down at the watch.
No, you play that up.
And he was like, all these white kids once into the Public Enemy, like thinking all they're tough. And he was one of them. Turn it up. Bring the noise.
I love the
Fight the power.
They did with the Anthrax. That was great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
We'll have to save that for another show.
Nobody can do a Public Enemy like Public Enemy.
No, absolutely not.
In the summer of 1986, the most exciting adventure in the universe is on planet Earth.
On behalf of Andrew and Jamie, thank you for listening to The Mental Suppository. Until next week, this is Brett Herholtz saying,
I knew I'd disturb you.
The Mental Suppository has been produced by Bret Herholtz and Jamie Billings and distributed by M the Media Project. Theme music generously donated by Mr. B, the Gentleman Rhymer. Visit his webpage at gentlemanrhymer.com. We would love to hear from our fans. Email us at mentalsuppository@gmail.com.